Five Bloods is now out on Netflix. It is the newest movie, directed and co-written by Spike Lee. A group of African-American Vietnam War veterans go back to Vietnam to find the body of their comrade in a secret stash of gold that was hidden during the Vietnam War. Along the way, they not only encounter human enemies, but nature itself threatens to get in the way as well. Spike Lee has made a very ambitious, timely, and definitely controversial movie here. It's also one of his most violent movies. I've never seen a Spike Lee movie that gets this violence. Spike Lee definitely has a voice for a movie like this. He's never afraid to mix racial tensions into a movie like this very subtly. The story is never the focus on that, but you can definitely tell from some lines of dialogue, some actions that the characters are doing, that they have a lot of anger due to some racial tension. He does that whole thing he did in BlacKkKlansman, where he puts real life images and videos of actual people, places, events onto the screen to have a voice and to say something important. A lot of people will find this as controversial because he says something about a certain somebody whose name I am not going to even name. And people who go to watch this movie are immediately going to turn it off when they see that person name. They're going to be like, this is just pandering, off! But that's what I've always loved about Spike Lee. He has something to say about history and its place in the world, not only in the past, but the present and potentially the future. And a lot of that has to do with racial tensions and political climates. That's all subtly showcased in this movie, and he does it very, very well. Delroy Lindo, what a performance. Give this man an Oscar nomination. He deserves an Oscar nomination. This is one of the best performances I've seen all year. His character is one of the most complex characters put on screen all year as well. He's tortured, he's tormented, he's suffering from PTSD, he has a lot of anger, he has a lot of guilt, he is highly unlikable, but he is a very well fleshed out, well developed character, as is another character in this movie. There's some characters that could have used a little bit more developing, but for this movie, for how the story played out, I feel as if that can go by the wayside. That's just a small little nitpick. It's not a huge problem I have with the movie because I found myself rooting for them. I found myself really intrigued as to where their adventure would lead to next. Something Spike Lee does really well in this film. He presents scenes from the past and then presents scenes in the present. The present scenes are presented in your normal 16:9 aspect ratio, widescreen. The sequences in the past are filmed, I don't know the exact dimensions of the aspect ratio, but it's a little square, kind of like how The Lighthouse was filmed. It's filmed like that. I think it was a very ambitious and unique way to film those sequences that took place in Vietnam in the 60s and 70s. It gave the movie a more old-time feel to it. It made the movie feel very lived in that era. He also made the film grain in those sequences look really old. When those scenes were on screen and I was watching the movie, it literally looked like those sequences in the movie were filmed in 1960, 1970. If somebody had told me that this movie was made in like 1971 or 72 or like 69 or something, and they had showed me those scenes, I would have totally believed them. I mean, you have modern day actors in those scenes, like Chadwick Boseman's in those scenes, but like just the overall look just captured that old time aesthetic, and I was so in love with the visuals and how that was presented on screen and just what Spike Lee was trying to achieve. And I think he achieved all of what he was trying to do by switching up the aspect ratios. It felt very rooted in the past while moving the aspect ratio to the normal widescreen aspect ratio made it feel very rooted in the present. This movie also feels very rooted in the future because what he's trying to say could also have potential ramifications in the future. There is a sequence towards the middle of this movie that I felt was one of the most intense sequences I have watched all year. My jaw dropped. I was on the edge of my seat. It jangled my nerves. I was completely in awe as to what was going to happen. I had the adrenaline rush of a junkie. The musical score in this movie is also a highlight. I really loved the musical score, that sense of camaraderie, heroism. It's definitely a score that captures wartime, like the Vietnam War. It's definitely a score you would find in a Vietnam War movie, while at the same time feeling very emotional and heartbreaking. I don't know if there's really an aspect of this movie to criticize. Maybe the character development. As I said, it's a nitpick. Guess if I have to criticize one thing, it's kind of like reaching into a haystack to find a needle. I would say Jean Reno's character, how that's all developed. He's in the beginning, he goes away for most of the movie, then shows up at the end as like the main villain. I didn't really buy all of that. I just didn't think he was in it that much. He didn't really come across as the villain. And I would have to say there were scenes in the middle of the movie that sort of dragged. I'm not going to say this is a slow-paced movie, but there were a couple scenes in the middle of the movie, in the second act, that I felt were a bit slow. Definitely, though, check this movie out. It's going to be controversial to a lot of people. Like every Spike Lee movie is. It's heavy-handed, it's ambitious, it's the most violent movie I've seen Spike Lee make. But damn, does he have something to say about racial tensions, the political climate. I loved Delroy Lindo's performance, the different aspect ratios, the musical score. It all fits in so well in this movie. Spike Lee has struck a chord. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. I don't even know if this is better than The Invisible Man. I'm going to go back and forth for the rest of the year. I will say you will love Da 5 Bloods, and it belongs in popcorn heaven. Definitely check it out. Definitely check this out over Artemis Fowl, because that movie's just, it's foul. The King of Staten Island, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to review. I just don't feel like forking out $20 to a studio who is trying to kill the theatrical experience and has really started some drama with drive-in theaters. From what it looks like on Twitter, I haven't really read into it. I can't get behind that model. If I do end up reviewing The King of Staten Island, I will review it. But don't be surprised if I don't. I just can't stand by that nonsense. I'm not huge on what Universal's doing, trying to kill the theatrical experience. I love the movie theater. A lot of people love the movie theater. Don't do that to us, please. So what'd you guys think of Da 5 Bloods? It's on Netflix now. Drop me some feedback in the comments section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.